This time on episode 507 of Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D., we discuss the 2024 Disney Plus show X-Men 97, Season 1, Episode 6, Lifedeath, Part 2.
I'm Stephen John Drew from the official GonnaGeek.com show, a weekly geek news podcast that is a part of the Gonna Geek network, just like the show you're checking out now. Shows on the network are individually owned, and opinions expressed may not reflect others. Find other awesome geeky shows at GonnaGeekNetwork.com.
Raised on X-Men, empowered by the Avengers, strengthened by the Defenders, webbed by Spider-Man, adopted by the Fantastic Four, and forged by S.H.I.E.L.D. Stand by for your Marvel debriefing.
And now it's time for your Marvel debriefing. I'm Agent Lauren.
I'm Agent Michelle.
And I'm producer of the show, Director SP.
Welcome to the Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. This show is recorded on Saturday, April 20th, 2024, live from the Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. studios and broadcast space-wide. Come join our live chat as we record.
This week, we are talking about Lifedeath Part 2. Storm is forced to face her worst fears in order to free herself.
We're going to give our first thoughts right now. And for me, it's about time we finally see Xavier more than halfway through this whole thing. Lauren?
It's a meanwhile, but it really does advance the plot.
Disney Plus needs to get better with the descriptions of their episodes.
This is not new. We've been talking about this for quite some time.
This one kind of really drove that home, though.
Indeed. All right, we're going to start with the weather in the episode, the storm.
So we had a direct continuation from the last episode she appeared in, Lifedeath Part 1. So she has no powers. There's an evil owl spirit talking to her. Forge is kind of magically ill. Not having a good time.
No, and Storm is facing, the fear from the demon owl. And fortunately, Forge has enough strength to find a book and magically get the adversary to disappear, knows about a cactus, and rides with Storm. And he is like, I wanted to be here because I know getting the cactus means you having to face one of your fears, which is tight spaces, because Storm is claustrophobic. And she gets in there, and while the walls are closing in, I would say it's an intrusive thought when she sees the adversary again, the adversary being the manifestation of her fear. And we learn that her true fear really isn't of the tight spaces. It's really of how powerful she is. People keep calling her a goddess. And we saw the lightning from space. She really is that powerful.
Also, her secondary mutation is magical girl costume changes. Good for her.
Apparently, yeah. So I'm not an expert in Marvel magical books, right? Far from it. Did we just see the Darkhold in the X-Men 97, or is this some other book?
I honestly don't know. For sure, the way the magic looked very much like in Doctor Strange and all of the associated magic stuff that we've seen since then.
But is that just consistency of magic within the Marvel universe, or is that specific to the Darkhold?
Yeah, that's the question.
Yeah, no idea. So, all right, it might be, we might never see the book again. We don't know, but I didn't look into it specifically. I was just going to ask you guys the question there. I'm glad to see her have her powers back. I mean, it's been a few episodes. We got part 1 a few episodes ago, and this is part 2.
I was trying to remember. I remember I said a few episodes ago how long she was without her powers in the comics. Oh, I want to say it was like 50 some issues or something like that. And I'm really glad that we got it back relatively soon, because as much as I love Storm trying to figure out who she is without her powers, I love her coming to terms with how powerful she is and being kind of unapologetic about it more.
In the first episode about her powers, Life Death Part 1, it was paired with Motendo. Should this have been double titled?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I was thinking it should.
We don't even start with Storm. This is what I mean about the episode description. The description just mentions Storm. We don't even start with Storm. We start with the Shi'ar, all of a sudden in a war with the Kree. Wow, yeah, that's looking cool and everything. I'm sitting there going, am I watching the right episode? I actually had to double check because it's just like, did they release two? Am I looking at the right one? And it's like, yes. But we all of a sudden we get this war and we get Deathbird looking cool and putting her, heel literally into Ronan's face. But then we get this announcement from Leandra about how we took in this almost dead guy and we healed him, and I'm getting engaged in the middle of a war. LOL. Like, what? What?
Yeah, I did not understand what the point was of just throwing the Shi'ar in the story at this point. I did not understand what that convoluted stuff really was there.
Okay, so two things. One, with regards to the Shi'ar, if this story is heading where I think it's heading due to references and, every week I'm like, so in the Grant Morrison New X-Men comics, if we are going there, then Shi'ar mythology ends up being kind of important. And in regards to the episode name, I had planned on talking about this later, but it seems like a good time right now. I really liked that the episodes are mirrors of each other in a lot of ways. We start Storm's story in despair and we end in hope. We start Xavier's story in hope and end in despair. So Life Death kind of seems like an apt sort of juxtaposition, I guess.
But it says part 2. So
yeah, there is
logically
that.
you're thinking, okay, part 1 was about Storm and Forge. Part 2 is going to be about Storm and Forge. Not all of a sudden this really greatly animated war. Again, the animation is still top notch in this series. But again, it's them, and then there's a little bit of Storm and Forge, and then we get Shi'ar politics. I mean, the bulk of this is really Shi'ar stuff.
That's my point. So the Shi'ar was a main point of the X-Men 92, but it was just out of the blue here. We hadn't seen it for 5 episodes. We hadn't seen Xavier for 5 episodes. And it's like, just because of plot, this is the time to bring Xavier back. And so now we're going to go into it. It's just, it should have been thread in there, but I guess everybody just wanted to have it out there that Xavier was gone and he wasn't coming back. And so having the thread of that story in there would have had, the audience, us, know that Xavier was coming back. So it was just very thinly veiled in there, and I saw through it, sort of thing, and it just, I don't want to say I didn't appreciate it, but this is hard for me to describe. I didn't care for it, so to speak. It could have been done better, I think. Anyway, let's move on to the fact that Michelle in the credits, right? We didn't see a couple of cards, but we got a new card.
Yeah, we didn't get Magneto or Gambit in the main credits, but we got a spoiler because it seems like somehow we're getting Nightcrawler. So that's another thing I was expecting in this episode. Like, oh, we're getting Nightcrawler. I thought the episode was going to be about Storm and Forge and us getting Nightcrawler. But Nightcrawler is not even in this episode. So it seems like maybe next episode we're going to get Nightcrawler. We're probably going to get Xavier back in the credits. I just thought that was interesting that we are spoiled that we're getting Nightcrawler.
It's almost like this is a reverse card from last week because we had Nightcrawler and remember it. And then we didn't really have him now. So I don't know. I think they're just they've led the crumbs to say, okay, the opening credits are going to give you snippets of what's going on in the episode, and we're just going to give you something that's going to throw you off for this episode. Now that you figured it out, we're going to throw you off. And again, didn't care for it too much. Either that or there is a subtle reason behind it, and I'm just not picking it up.
I think part of it is they are really trying to emphasize, oh, these characters are gone. Like Gambit, we saw the body. We know Magneto, we'll see. But they are emphasizing, hey, they're gone. Get used to it. And then while Xavier is trying to teach everybody to be happy friends in the astral plane, he kind of gets the psychic ripples there, I guess, his Alderaan moment.
Yeah, Alderaan moment, or didn't Luke also have the same moment in like Return of the Jedi or something like that? Anyway, yes, let's talk about the memory stuff. Like Xavier needing to get rid of his memory in order to get married. I think that's a horrible choice. Personally, I have an issue with those sorts of storylines. I have an issue with Chuck. I will go back to that. The ending of Chuck, and I'm going to spoil it. It's been out for a long time now. The ending of Chuck has one of the main characters losing their memory. And I thought that was a horrible way to end the series because everything that you've just gone through, you don't get to keep. And I will directly apply it to here. It's like he loses all his memories in order to get married, but that's the experience of them actually coming together. Their story, we're going to have our memories of our courtship, for lack of a better term, and it just makes the relationship even stronger. And now he's got to get rid of them. I think that was just a stupid plot. I mean, if I was the queen, I'd say no. That is not going to happen.
It's really emphasizing that the Shi'ar Empire is maybe not so great. First off, we see them at war with the Kree, which, again, due to the MCU and being familiar with it, we know, okay, the Kree aren't, great, so maybe they're all right. But then, okay, so I read a lot of Am I the A-hole on Reddit, and there's always so many wedding stories because weddings are a very fraught and emotional time. So the whole time I'm thinking, like, I don't want to have my memories erased in order to get married. Am I the a-hole?
I like so.
And it's, no, again, when Empire is in the name, I feel like it's not going to be good.
You've got a point. It's not the Shi'ar conglomerate or the Shi'ar Kumbaya society. It is the Empire. And it's interesting how Xavier, in his lesson, was like, you come along and you cut the knees off of these civilizations and you tell them that the only way they can grow is if they become part of the Empire. So having this whole, you cut other cultures off at the knees, that's not exactly a great thing either. And this whole idea of being friends and being equals, the one guy's like, well, that's going to shake our society to its core. We all can't be friends and hold hands. What sort of world would we live in when cats and dogs can get along?
This is one of those situations where, okay, ideals are great. We wouldn't be anywhere without idealists pushing people for better futures. But the thing is that reality is messy. We're seeing that here with Xavier trying to make this very authoritarian empire a little more equal, a little more open-minded, kind of like he was trying with Earth. But his attempts on Earth weren't really going all that great, which is driven home when he gets his Alderaan moment and realizes, oh, there's a massacre going on, and I wasn't there for my people. And even if he's marrying, if he wants to marry into this culture, they're still not really his people. Like, what has Xavier been doing in all this time? Has he been out mingling with the populace? Has he been trying to see how their society works on a day-to-day basis? We don't know. All we know is he's been hanging out with the queen. The Empress, really. But again, it's one of the reasons why ever since I was young, I've been like, yeah, Magneto was right, because sometimes you need action.
Yeah, and let's talk about that final moment there with Xavier seeing Gambit's death. He doesn't see Magneto's death. He sees Gambit's death, which indicates to me, of course, that Magneto is not dead, but Gambit's death is impactful enough to shock him to get back to Earth. But that's the play there. He doesn't see Magneto. He sees Gambit. So there you go.
Because we all know he would see his husband if his husband was actually dead.
Yeah, that's my point.
When he was saying, like, why he didn't want to forget, he brings up Magneto. I'm like, oh, be still my shipper heart. Two of my earliest ships, thanks to X-Men, the animated series, Rogue and Gambit, and Magneto and Xavier.
Well, hopefully you'll get one back. So, and maybe he'll get to keep the suit versus going in the wheelchair. So we'll see. Lauren, you had some shout outs for some new voice actors for this episode?
I do. Okay, so we're going to start with Lilandra. Morla Gorondona voices her. One of her biggest roles was in She-Ra and the Princesses of Power, which highly recommend that show. Deathbird, who first showed up at the very beginning of the episode and who I thought was a lot of fun, was played by Carrie Kabanoff, and you can hear her in the Stranger Things VR game. Todd Haberkorn voices Ronan the Accuser. He's been in, like, everything. He has about 1 billion credits every year, but one of the more recent ones that he was a lead role in was the dub for the anime Fairy Tale. Gavin Hammond voiced Lord Araki, aka that jerk counselor guy who really wanted them to zap Xavier's brain. He's very recognizable from Telltale's The Walking Dead game, which, again, highly recommend. And David Arrigo Jr. voiced Gladiator. I think he's been in a previous episode or two, and he's probably best known from Phineas and Ferb.
All right. So I don't really have a question this week as I have been doing the past 5 weeks, but I do have some feedback from our Discord server. Randy Walker asked us, how does Storm conjure her costumes? Is it magic ancestry? Is it somehow tied to her mutant powers? Is it just hand wavy? And our co-host Chris, who is not here today, he responded, who's going to tell her she can't do that? So, okay.
I maintain it's the magical girl costume change. Once you reach a certain level of awesome, you get the magical girl costume change.
All right. So if anybody else has any other thoughts on this, please let us know. You can get a hold of us on our Discord server at gonnageek.com/Discord, or you can leave us a voicemail at 844-THE-BUS-1 or 844-843-2871. Michelle, do you have any last thoughts for the episode?
I do want to say that I enjoyed this episode. I know it seems like we nitpicked it to death, but we're nitpicking something that is awesome. And this series has been so great that we just found little fault with it with this episode. So don't think we were just like completely hating on everything. We still enjoyed the episode, I believe.
Lauren?
This is really making me want to reread Grant Morrison's New X-Men and try to find some more, I don't know, hints, Easter eggs. The end of the episode where I'm pretty sure it was supposed to be Donald Trask showed up and was like, I gave you my DNA so you could awaken the Master Mold is something that happens at the very beginning of those comics. I'm very excited to see how much they decide they're going with and how much they're going to do their own thing.
Along the same lines, I'm wondering how much Sinister we're actually going to get in the final 4 episodes. It's been a subtle thread so far throughout the beginning of the season, so we'll see how much we actually get. Is it going to be him in the shadows for a couple more episodes and he's going to pop up in the penultimate and the finale, or is it going to be a main running theme for the last 4 episodes? So we'll find out. Coming up next week, we'll be discussing the X-Men 97 Season 1, Episode 7. And until next time, I'm the director, SP.
I'm Agent Lauren.
And I'm Agent Michelle.
See everybody next time. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. I mean, I did like the episode.
Oh yeah, same.
Thank you for listening. The intro music heard on this podcast is Great Marvels of the World by Lynn Publishing, found on pond5.com. The outro music heard on this podcast is Cinematic Trailer by Ed Records, found on audiojungle.net. Other transitional music on this podcast is found on incompetech.com, audiojungle.net, and pond5.com. For more information about this podcast, please visit legendsofshield.com. Excelsior!
Dune 2 is now available on Fandango, and I was like, I'm not gonna start another service. And then I learned that Fandango is actually Voodoo.
Yeah.
I was like,
we were going to go see it like 2 weeks ago, except I was an idiot and bought tickets at the wrong theater, so we missed it.
Bummer.
Yeah. Pretty pissed at myself.
I haven't seen it yet, and I was like, I'll just wait until it comes out on streaming. And
yeah,
like I said, I was like, I'm not interested in starting another service. But then, I remembered that I do have kind of a healthy Voodoo account when I started buying stuff back in the day before I switched over to Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I actually wouldn't mind buying it over there to be able to watch it, but I don't think I'll have time to watch it before I get back from Florida. I did watch Fallout, though. You guys watch Fallout?
Not yet. I've been wanting to, but Scott's like, I don't feel like sitting down to watch it. And
Is it any good?
It's entertaining.
Everyone I know who's seen it has really liked it.
I can directly compare it now between Silo on Apple TV Plus and Fallout, and they are different. But out of the two, my preference is for Silo.
I really, really like the main actress. I loved her in Yellow Jackets.
For which one? Fallout?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I love Rebecca Ferguson from Silo too. Like, just she's gorgeous and talented, and I love her.
Very capable.
But
talking about Dune, she's in it.
Yeah.
She's not Zendaya, but she's in it, and she is very, very, very good in Silo.
Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. is copyright 2013 through 2024.